1956, Chicago. An elderly man named Leonard Burling ran a small tailor shop in the city. Leonard was a British citizen who had moved to Chicago many years earlier and quietly built a life for himself. Over time, he hired a young woman named Mabel as his assistant. She welcomed customers at the front, while Leonard worked meticulously in the back. Leonard had a unique habit. Before crafting a suit, he carefully observed his clients, the way they walked, their personal tastes, even the things they tried to hide. He believed a suit should reflect the truth of the person wearing it, not just their measurements. Because of this attention to detail, his shop became famous across Chicago for its quality. Wealthy families trusted him for their custom suits. Among his regular clients was the Boyle family, a powerful and influential mafia organization in Chicago. Their men frequently visited the shop, sometimes to place orders, other times to collect letters from a mailbox kept inside the store. One evening, the family's only heir, Richie Boyle, arrived with his trusted associate Francis to pick up mail. Inside one of the envelopes was a letter from a criminal group known as the Outfit. The moment Richie heard the name, he asked Leonard to step out to the lobby area so he could speak privately with Francis. Leonard agreed and stepped away. His eyes fell on a small box nearby. Curious, he asked Mabel what was inside. She showed him a small snow globe and explained that someone she knew had given it to her. Mabel loved collecting snow globes featuring cities like Paris, London, and Barcelona. She dreamed of leaving Chicago one day and traveling the world after. Richie and Francis left. Leonard and Mabel folded clothes together. Leonard mentioned that a man from the neighboring watch shop was interested in meeting her, but Mabel refused. She was already interested in someone else, Richie Boyle. Leonard warned her. Richie belonged to a mafia family known for violence and weapons, but Mabel calmly replied that she had grown up around men like Richie. To survive among them, she said, you sometimes have to look them in the eye and pretend to be just like them. Leonard wanted to train Mabel to become a skilled tailor like himself, but she had no interest in that future. She planned to leave Chicago soon. Leonard didn't argue. That night, Mabel went home while Leonard stayed behind, working late. As he worked, he dozed off and began dreaming of losing everything in a terrible fire. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening jolted him awake. Heard Mabel and Richie's voices. They had returned, seeking privacy. During their conversation, Richie mentioned Francis, revealing that Francis was actually his adopted brother. Francis suspected that someone inside the Boyle gang was leaking information to their rival, the LaFontaine group. Richie also resented that his father, Roy Boyle, trusted Francis more than his own son, especially since Francis had once saved Roy's life. Leonard listened silently from the other room, but suddenly he dropped something, making a noise that alerted Mabel and Richie. Thinking quickly, Leonard lay back down and pretended to be asleep. Mabel hurriedly sent Richie away. A few days later, Richie and Francis returned to collect more letters. That night, they received another envelope from the Outfit, this time containing a letter and a cassette tape. They immediately left to take it to Roy, but shortly after, they returned in panic. Richie had been shot in the stomach. Francis was supporting him. Francis carried the wounded Richie into Leonard's back workroom. He ordered Leonard to press hard against Richie's wound. Then he showed him a briefcase, explaining that it contained an extremely important tape, and the attackers would surely come looking for it. He handed the case to Leonard for safekeeping. Francis called Roy Boyle and informed him that the LaFontaine gang had attacked Richie and that they were hiding in Leonard's shop. Roy said he would come as quickly as possible. Richie begged Francis to take him home. Francis refused, insisting they follow Roy's orders and stay put. The argument grew heated. Francis made it clear his loyalty was to Roy, not Richie. As blood poured from Richie's body, Francis ordered Leonard to stitch the wound. Leonard hesitated, explaining he wasn't a doctor and had never done such a thing before. Asterisk, even though he didn't want to, Leonard had no choice but to stitch Richie's wound. Without anesthesia, Richie passed out from the pain, and somehow Leonard managed to close the wound and stop the bleeding. Afterward, Francis told Leonard to keep an eye on Richie while he stepped out for a while. Leonard refused. He said Francis should take Richie with him because he wanted no part in the Boyle family's bloody affairs. But Francis insisted he needed to find a cassette player immediately. The tape they had contained illegal wiretapping recordings, secret surveillance involving someone from the Boyle family itself. Francis suspected that a close family member was secretly working with the FBI and planting microphones in their safe houses. The information on that cassette could destroy the entire family, which is why multiple mafia groups were after it. Shortly after Francis left, Leonard noticed the suit he had been working on. It was stained with blood. Without wasting time, he removed the ruined fabric and began replacing it with clean cloth. Meanwhile, Richie regained consciousness. Weak but alive, he thanked Leonard and asked for water. When he asked about Francis, Leonard explained that he had gone to find a cassette player. He also mentioned that Francis strongly believed the traitor was someone inside the family. Leonard then told Richie that his father, Roy Boyle, was a good man. He remembered the day he opened his shop. Roy had been his very first customer. Richie smiled faintly and said he remembered that day too. His father had come home excited, talking about a tailor from London. Roy loved fine clothing and often said that tying a proper tie was the first serious step a man takes in life. During the conversation, Leonard calmly asked Richie if he suspected anyone. Richie said no. Leonard then leaned back in his chair and almost casually said, "I'm the one who passed information to your enemies. I helped federal agents plant the microphones." For a moment, Richie fell silent, then burst into laughter. He thought Leonard was joking. Leonard laughed too and continued sewing as if nothing serious had been said. Richie asked why he would even joke about something like that. Leonard replied, "Why are you so certain I couldn't be the traitor?" Richie explained that Leonard was just a simple tailor. He had nothing to do with Mafia betrayals. Leonard corrected him sharply. He wasn't a tailor, he was a cutter. There was a world of difference. Anyone could hold a needle and call themselves a tailor. But becoming a cutter required years of study and discipline. Still, Richie dismissed it. Leonard then subtly shifted the conversation toward Francis. He suggested that Francis's eagerness to find the traitor might itself be suspicious. Perhaps. He was deflecting attention. That idea planted doubt in Richie's mind. When Francis returned, Leonard quietly poisoned his thoughts. He whispered that Richie suspected him and that Richie had opened the suitcase he left behind. Leonard was deliberately turning them against each other. The tension quickly escalated. Richie confronted Francis, asking why he was the only one shot during the attack while Francis walked away unharmed. Francis claimed he had simply been lucky, but suspicion kept growing. Their argument over the tape turned physical. In the chaos, they discovered the suitcase was completely empty. Richie snapped. He pulled his gun on Francis, believing Francis had taken the tape. Francis thought Richie had hidden it. In a split second of distraction, Francis shot Richie and then shot him again to make sure he was dead. Leonard stood frozen in fear. Francis demanded the tape. Leonard claimed ignorance. Francis began searching frantically. At that moment, Roy arrived with his men. Panicked, Francis begged Leonard for help hiding Richie's body and cleaning the blood before Roy entered. They hid Richie's body in a trunk. Francis wiped away the blood while Leonard opened the door. Roy thanked Leonard for standing by them during a difficult time. By the time Roy reached the back room, everything looked clean. Francis lied, claiming Richie had taken the tape and left to meet Roy. Roy tried calling Richie repeatedly. No answer. Worry filled his face. He ordered Francis to search for Richie alone while he stayed behind. Once Francis left, Roy's eyes wandered around the room and stopped on a suitcase. Suspicion grew. He asked Leonard again why he had come to Chicago. Leonard repeated his old excuse about blue jeans replacing suits in Britain. Roy laughed coldly. He didn't believe him. Suddenly, Roy drew his gun and said he had built his empire with it. Then he explained that the outfit was one of the largest criminal organizations in the world. They had sent the wiretap recordings to help identify the traitor. Leonard grew uneasy. He asked why Roy was telling him all this. Roy pointed the gun at him and said, "Because you're going to die tonight." Richie never left. His coat is still here. In this December cold, he wouldn't step outside without it. Before Leonard could respond, Francis burst in, dragging Mabel at gunpoint. The tension exploded. Roy demanded the truth. Francis held a gun to Mabel's head. To save her, Leonard quickly invented a story. He claimed Richie felt ashamed. During the attack, Francis had fought bravely while Richie did nothing. To prove himself, Richie had gone alone to confront the LaFontaine gang. Francis tried shifting suspicion onto Mabel, suggesting Richie might have gone to her apartment. Roy began interrogating her. Francis lied, claiming he had seen bloodstains. On her carpet, Mabel screamed that it wasn't true. Under pressure, Roy grew more aggressive. Francis added fuel to the fire, suggesting Mabel could be the traitor, feeding information through her relationship with Richie. Leonard defended her, but Francis violently assaulted her. They dragged her into another room. Leonard finally confessed his hidden truth. He hadn't come to Chicago because of fashion trends. He once had a wife and daughter, both killed in a fire. Since then, he had treated Mabel like his own child. He would not let her be destroyed. Then the shop phone rang. Leonard answered and later lied to Roy, claiming Richie had called and was hiding from LaFontaine at a specific location. Roy rushed out with his men. Francis stayed behind. And then Leonard revealed everything. He had intentionally sent Roy into a trap. The real traitor the Boyle family was hunting was Mabel. Through her relationship with Richie, she accessed family secrets and sold them to the LaFontaine group. Later, realizing suspicion was growing, she began cooperating with the FBI to bring down both families. Leonard had known all along and had protected her. The cassette tape? Fake. Leonard had recorded his own voice and planted it in the mailbox under the outfit's name to manipulate the Boyle family. He had secretly recorded everything that happened that night. Those recordings would be given to the FBI, enough to destroy both the Boyle and LaFontaine organizations. Told Mabel to take the money and leave Chicago. Travel the world. See Paris, London, Barcelona, just like in her snow globes. Mabel tearfully asked him to come with her. He refused gently. She shouldn't waste her youth caring for an old man. After she left, Leonard prepared to burn down the shop to destroy evidence. But Francis was still alive. He regained consciousness and shot at Leonard, the bullet grazing his arm. Leonard stood tall and revealed his final secret. He had once been a violent man himself. Tattoos on his arms were proof. He had left that life behind, moved to London, married, and tried to live honestly until his former associates burned his home and killed his family. That tragedy brought him to Chicago, and fate brought him back to violence. In the final struggle, Francis lunged with a knife, and Leonard killed him with his tailor's shears. He set the shop on fire and walked away, leaving Chicago's bloody underworld behind. Leonard had hidden a deadly past behind the mask of a quiet cutter. Anyone who underestimated him paid the ultimate price.